don't normally like making videos like these that rely on perhaps clickbaity news that come and go in the gaming world in like a split second. But this one really got stuck in my mind and made me quite angry, so I thought that I may as well make a video on it and release it about as soon as I can. Because this video is gonna be discussing adult topics and as such is gonna be demonetized anyway, I thought I may as well come out with a full getup. If anyone ever like references this video and it's like, hey, you look weird, it's like, yeah, I know. I may as well go all out. Honestly, you may as well go all out if you're making a video on this too. Let's just have some fun. We're two people on the internet. Nobody needs to give us permission to live our best life. Though we might not look very professional doing it, but that's neither here nor there. So, Steam has banned adult games with incest from their storefront, which sounds like a good thing in general, except that it wasn't Steam's decision. It was the decision of card processing people. It was the decision of credit card companies. And the decision came with this new clause in their rules stating content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers are against Steam's terms of service. Now, honestly, I don't care either way about porn games all that much. I don't mind them existing, and I do believe that such a media is better for exploring deep-seated fantasies than real life is. For example, I would rather people had fun with pictures of tentacles rather than went out and found and traumatized a squid. That is just not the way that I believe we should proceed as people. However, this kind of rule gives the back door for a very specific group of companies to moderate and moralize a whole global platform that you also can't appeal or can't reason with. If my government passes a rule against certain kinds of video games, and that does happen in various countries, for example, in some countries you can't even show blood in video games, I can then go and protest that rule, appeal that rule. What is being sold to my country will change. What kind of games, how much censor there is, depending if the company wants to censor themselves to sell to that specific country, that will all change, but at the same time, game developers will still be able to sell their product to other countries on the platform. I, as a consumer, have more rights and more access to changing these rules and to expressing what matters to me in these products and what I stand up for and don't stand up for when it is set by a government and applies to my country rather than set by a vague global company that should have no say in such things. At the same time, it is completely fine for Valve to put out whatever rules that they want. If they say, no porn games starting tomorrow, I will be like, well, that is up to Valve. That it's their storefront. They can sell whatever they want through it. If they're like, no incest, yeah, that's also completely fine. It sounds reasonable even. But when it is through this vague rule, that means almost absolutely nothing. Content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers. This is a very large group of different kind of companies whose rules are not beholden to any one specific entity or government, whose rules are not set in stone, whose rules can change as easily as CEOs do. What if the next CEO decides to, instead of just looking at porn games that have incest, they will just turn their head slightly to the right? You know what you would find if you look just slightly to the right from porn games? You would find Crusader Kings. Crusader Kings features incest, not in a porny way, but as one of the things that you can do as a player. Other things that you can do as a player is cannibalism, for example. Eat the Pope is kind of a popular thing. You can murder children. That's perfectly fine, especially your own children or your competitors' children. That's entirely okay. Torture definitely enters the picture of Crusader Kings. In Crusader Kings 2, there was a way to enable animal picture mode as like a bit of an Easter egg, which was a lot of fun, but you could take that and then argue that Crusader Kings 2 also features bestiality because of it. These topics are not very nice and would probably be forbidden in a lot of media. However, entertainment media tends to be taken a bit differently. If a credit card company decides to come out and cut off my access to these games without any way for me to appeal this, because they will just petition the storefront and the storefront will no longer be able to sell it, and these kind of things will begin to be censored, I would be a very unhappy person. You know, one of my favorite games, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, if you look at Therese's and I think it was Jeanette's, I forget her name because my brain isn't that good. They were the Mulcavian sisters running a club in the first map that you go into. If you look at their story, if you interpret what they say at the end, what kind of things they disclose to you, this is a person whose father had sexual relations with them, possibly when they were children. It is one character's drama, but it once again kind of skirts this thing, especially if a credit card company gets a bit too invested in hunting down video games. I wanted to make this video because it infuriates me. It infuriates me that a agency that has no right to do such a thing decides to go out and do such a thing, by which I mean they have no right to censor video games as a media worldwide and instruct biggest distributors of video games on what can and cannot be on their platform. If Valve themselves want specific things to not be on their platform, that is fine. If governments worldwide want to enact specific rules about exploring specific themes, that's fine. But we are talking about a body that's not beholden to any of that. We are talking about payment processor, banks, and network operators that can just make the decision to ban a group of products worldwide with no appeal process, with not needing to justify what they're banning and why they're banning it, and with not being beholden to answering to any particular country or government. They just get to enact that rule outright. A government of any one country doesn't have that much power. Like, if UK decides to ban something, and UK has banned plenty of things, mind you. For example, there has been quite a row, as UK is not really a fan of BDSM. And that also includes showing two consenting adults spanking one another. To me, this is a level that's a bit ridiculous, but that is a government and people can protest the government and argue the laws. UK government doesn't have the right to enact this ban worldwide. A credit card company somehow has. How is such an entity being given so much power? And why are they being given a rule that is effectively a blank fill? Anything that they say on Steam platform now just goes because they said so. I would assume that they wouldn't go after big targets. I would assume that Crusader Kings is safe because it isn't an indie project. I would assume that when they start, if they start going after big targets, there would be a lot more outrage from regular consumers and regular players. And I do know that Valve is taking a stance that's a stance of least resistance. It is a lot easier to take down a whole bunch of small indie games in the adult content category that focus on a theme that is already quite societally unsightly and that perhaps shouldn't have been focused on to begin with. It is a lot easier to take down those games than to deal with your whole platform suddenly losing access to major banks and major credit card companies and people suddenly being unable to pay for their purchase. So I entirely understand Valve's reasoning here, but this is not right. It is not right that a private company gets to hold this much power worldwide, that they can set rules and they can shut down trading of specific products entirely, when even governments can't do that. I know that this video is not gonna spread and it's not gonna be taken seriously, because once again, the kind of thing that was attacked today is unsightly. I am not standing here going, reinstate incest porn. I honestly don't care. What I care about specifically is that thing in the EULA, where, to reiterate, content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers is against Steam's EULA. I care about the fact that this is so vague. I care about the fact that you can insert absolutely fucking anything in here. And I care about the fact that it is a private company that can do this. This is what really sets me off. This is what doesn't stand well with me, and this is what makes me quite enraged. So, sorry for discussing a very adult subject. Sorry for dressing the way that I did, because I was like, you know what, fuck it. Nobody's gonna see this video anyway. I doubt that anyone cares. And when people see what this is about, they're gonna like shut it down and say, you are being unreasonable because this removal of games is entirely reasonable. I don't care because it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit right with me. That is not normal. That is not right. That is weird. That is fucking weird that you can have a global private corporation that carries this much power worldwide. That you can just get your hands on a specific part of entertainment industry and hold it in a chokehold. It will never set right with me. So, guys, if it doesn't set right with you, please talk about it. Once again, this isn't like, hey, Valve, reinstate incest games. This is more of a, no, just No. Moderate whatever the heck you want off your platform, but not like this. Not through this. Not by instating this little vague little thingy that prioritizes private corporations. That shouldn't be the power that private corporations are given. And I will die on this hill. I will absolutely die on this hill, and I hope that more people will die on this hill. I hope that the fact that PC Gamer wrote about this, that the fact that this exists, that it is generating some sort of discourse, that it will snowball. I hope that we're not just gonna lie down and be like, yep, that's okay. It's perfectly fine for a bank to one day wake up and decide that they want to censor one specific thing and then take down a whole bunch of products worldwide. I hope that we're not okay with this. I hope that we're not okay with internet providers and card manufacturers doing it. Like, have reasonable oversight of your own platform, have reasonable law-abiding trading, pay attention to the laws of the country that you're trading in, moderate your own storefront how you want, but don't put this in the rules. So, if you saw this and if you care about it, could you please do me a favor? And you don't need to send this video to comment on it or like it or whatever. Doing that boosts the algorithm, but you don't need to do that, especially considering that a lot of people will believe this to be ridiculous. Can you just go to the second article about the new rule and can you bloody talk about it? Can you just spread it forth? Can you inform people about it? And can you make sure that this doesn't just disappear entirely unheard and unseen? Because this is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that this kind of thing exists and that it is fine for this kind of thing existing and that nobody is even gonna peep about it. I don't make videos like these often because I don't like being enraged, and once again, I don't like making clickbaity content about what some journalists wrote, but this time it feels important. I won't be able to continue tracking it because there are a lot of things that happen every single day, but if it feels important to you, just share the message around. Thank you for watching, and I hope that I'm gonna see you on my happier, more regular videos now. Toodaloo for now.